Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. Let's get into it, man. The Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics game is over. The series is over because Miami have forced a Game 7, or the Celtics forced a Game 7, and Miami wrapped it up in 7 games to go to the NBA Finals. Now, before I even touch on that, I appreciate you for tuning in to the first Interactive Sports Podcast. You know, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you don't like, or you hear something you just have to share your opinion on, give us a call, 219-413-9405. We are going to give you another episode this week as well. This is just a post-game reaction, so I got to go ahead and touch on a few things. So right away, obviously we know the Miami Heat won this game 103-84, but I will say, it shouldn't even went to a Game 7, truth be told, man. The Miami Heat, they were really lacking those 3 games, and I give the Boston Celtics credit for playing hard and showing some sort of heart in Game 4, Game 5, and Game 6, but ultimately it shouldn't have went this far. One of the key differences I noticed from Game 4, Game 5, and Game 6, where the Boston Celtics won 3 straight, was that they were actually making 3-pointers. They were knocking things down. They were fighting over screens. They were fighting for loose balls. They were crashing the glass very, very hard. I mean, that Game 6, the other night, that was the whole reason they even got to Game 7, is because they crashed the glass at the end of the game and ended up getting the late tip in to, go ahead, score the ball, whatever. But anyway, man, long story short, they knocked down a lot more threes than what they were able to do in Game 7. And I feel like that's one of the key differences that I witnessed from the Celtics play versus in Game 7, whereas in the other games, they were knocking down threes. In Game 7, they weren't really knocking down threes. I mean, some of the stats for it is just terrible, man. Like, looking at the numbers, Jaylen Brown, 1 for 9 for 3-pointers. Malcolm Brogdon 0 for 2, Jason Tatum 1 for 4, Marcus Smart 1 for 6, Al Horford 2 for 5 for 3. Like, come on, man, it was bad. Derek White even shot bad from the 3-point line, but he did a lot of different things to affect the ball game. But shooting the ball from 3-point was not a good thing that he did. He was even 2 for 9. So I will say, although that worked for the Celtics in the past, it did not work well for them in Game 7. I feel like they kind of fell in love with the 3 ball in Game 7, was kind of forcing jump shots, just jacking it up there because, I mean, in the Game 4, 5, and 6, it worked for them. They was knocking it down, and it really turned into blowouts. It kept them in the game. So it's hard to break a bad habit when you've been playing bad basketball, and when you've been playing okay or average basketball. It's hard to just switch all of a sudden and start going to a different avenue or a different type of game plan when you've been playing the same way and winning and succeeding for so many different games. That was also important to you. Now, another thing, too, because I do want to give the Miami Heat their credit as well for this Game 7. They definitely earned it, first off. In every game that they've won in this series, they've earned it for sure. But the role guys, man, played amazing between Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, even Bam. I give him his credit as well. His stats may not have reflected in the on the stat sheet that he played amazing, because he didn't give you the points, he didn't give you all the rebounds, he didn't give you all the assists totals and stuff like that. But when you watch the game, you got to understand, here's where Bam was effective, because not only did he, put the numbers up that he did, like I think it was 12 points and a couple rebounds, whatever, but on the defensive end, this man was guarding 1 through 5 damn near the whole game. I seen this man guard Derek White on multiple possessions that were key in momentum shifts. I seen him guard Robert Williams, Al Horford, Jaylen Brown. Like, you got to give the man his credit. And I understand you might be pissed at Bam because you put a parlay on him. You might have betted it on him and was hoping he got a certain amount of rebounds, a certain amount of points, blocks, whatever the case was. But you got to understand, when you talk about the way the Miami Heat plays and how they play as a team, each guy plays their role. Bam did a pretty damn good job, bro. Like, hear me out. He even made some great passes. He got some important boards. I mean, he found Jimmy Butler open. He kept the offense flowing. Like he did his thing. It wasn't anything that's worth glorifying on ESPN or glorifying on NBA TV with his numbers or his points. But in terms of his play, he played kind of solid. I'll put kind of solid because it wasn't too many stats and stuff. But in terms of the defensive end, he definitely did his thing. He held it down, and he still had an impact, although his stats don't show the direct impact in numbers. He had a tremendous impact on this game. So kudos to him. Obviously, Caleb Martin, tremendous night for him in Game 7. Showed up big. Truthfully, I thought he could have honestly won that MVP for the night. In terms of the conference finals, he finished with 26 tonight, hit a couple of threes. Also, Gabe Vincent did a very good job as well throughout the course of the series. Really kept the Miami Heat in games where they shouldn't have even been competitive, especially when you look at the games where the Celtics were winning. These role guys, you rely so heavily on them to actually keep the Miami Heat in the game. So kudos to them. Glad they're able to go on to their first finals. And Jimmy Butler, obviously, he had a huge impact because he played way better than the shit he produced in Game 6. Game 6, 5 for 21. Tonight, what was it? Way better, whatever the case, they were 12 for 28, which is not perfect, but I mean, it's way better. And he finished with 28 points. Like, this is way better. And when you got your role guys hitting shots, hitting threes and stuff, this is, of course, going to help your team win by the margin that they should have. And this is not considering the fact that the Celtics kind of shot themselves in the leg with shooting themselves out the game, all of that. But long story short, man, Miami Heat, they definitely came to play, and they earned it. They earned it for sure. So you have to give them the credit. And I was a person that said Boston Celtics in 5 to start. Yeah, I know the shit aged horribly. It aged terribly with time because the Boston Celtics ended up going to 7, all of that, even though they shouldn't have. They played bad, whatever, you know, the whole narrative's about whatever they was doing. But long story short, man, even though I said Celtics in 7 or Celtics in 5, I still believe that they were the far more talented team, but it just came with the inconsistency of that they were playing with. I mean, when you talk about game by game, Miami smacked them the first 3 games. Obviously, some of the games, I will say, between Game 4, Game 5, and Game 6, Miami could have pulled off a couple of them, but the Celtics really flipped the switch that turned something on completely different, which showed that inconsistency factor. It kind of gave me hope. I thought they were going to win, actually, but they heavily rely on talent. And that's what causes them to lose, because even though they're not consistent in so many areas, they're not always fighting over screens, they're not always jumping for loose balls, they're not always playing great defense, they rely on the talent to bail them out of situations that they shouldn't be in the first place. In Miami, when you give a team like that who plays based on effort, who plays where you won't even be on the floor if you're not giving maximum effort, when you play a team like that, you cannot continue to give them multiple chances like the way the Celtics did in Game 7 and multiple times in this series. So, long story short, kudos to the Miami Heat. I think they get smacked by the Denver Nuggets. Truth be told, man, I'll have more on that later on this week, but I really do believe that the Heat are going to get smacked by the Denver Nuggets. But you can't count them out. I'm not going to say it's a sweep. I'm not going to even say it's in 5, because clearly you cannot count the Miami Heat out, especially with the road guys hitting on all cylinders the way they were throughout this series. Tyler Hero may be coming back for the Miami Heat, who's going to give them another 20-plus points in a game. So huge series coming up in the NBA Finals. I'm glad we get to see a great finals. Glad Jimmy Butler got there. But ultimately, Denver Nuggets is definitely going to pop them. I'll have more for it. But anyway, man, if you heard something you ain't like, again, you can always give us a call. 219-413-9405. We will air your take and play it back later on this week. So go ahead, shoot us a call. Drop your thoughts about the Boston Celtics in the Miami Heat series. Drop your thoughts about this upcoming Denver Nuggets in the Miami Heat series that we will be watching this week. So, all right, man. Until then, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it, whether it's iHeart, Spotify, iPodcast, TheRunUSA.com, or even if you're watching on YouTube. So greatly appreciate that. And until then, man, share this with a cousin, a brother, or uncle, and nephew, a niece, an uncle, a neighbor, anybody. But till then, man, I will see y'all next week or later on this week, actually. And so on and so on and so on.